Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded. This is a cover sheet, John Dudley, Naiology, or the Treaty on the Origin, Progress and Symbolic Import of the Sacred Structures of the Most Eminent Nations and Ages. This book deals with ancient architecture going back to antiquity, but whether it's the Christian world, Buddhist world, Jews and Muslims, the importance of sacred architecture has been a fundamental carry-on throughout times. And, well, again, Naiology, the study of sacred buildings. And this brings us to why the designs for the reconstruction of Notre Dame Paris Cathedral are utter crap. This is Notre Dame Cathedral, the spire, which collapsed during and the roof collapsed during the fires. Now, the building, the spire, the roof frames were built from timber. What we had before were the vaulted ceilings, and so the cathedrals would have a vaulted ceiling because in medieval times fires were common. The vaulted ceilings would protect the cathedral from fire. Most of the cathedrals have actually had fires during their lifetime, and the vaulted ceilings would protect them and have protected them. Some of the vaulted ceilings in Notre Dame collapsed. There we can see one example on the other side as well, possibly here in the central where the spire were. But we see that the majority of the vaulted ceilings have survived. Here is basically a example of the new designs that are being proposed, and that these are utter crap, these are utterly ridiculous. Now, the suggestions would be, for instance, the glass roof would allow for natural light to illuminate the space below. That would require the vaulted ceilings that have survived to be ripped out. Or alternatively, let's say that this design includes the reconstruction of the vaulted ceiling. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt there, but this would not make any sense because how would the glass roof? So why would you put a glass roof there so you could see the top of the vaulted ceilings? Well, unless you're flying in a drone or a helicopter, you wouldn't really see them. Now, maybe you might say that's a noble idea and we'd see the interior of a building. It would be lovely. Well, it's nonsense, and I'll show you why. Because firstly, already you can see natural light has flooded the building and has drowned out the beauty of the stained glass windows. So number one, you've destroyed one of the most essential parts of a building is the stained glass in there. That would be utterly destroyed by this notion. Secondly, if you were to follow this design idea and flood the building with natural light, you would utterly destroy the acoustics. And the acoustics, whether it's a choir or whether it's hymn singing, you would utterly destroy the essence, and one of the beautiful parts of this building would be ruined, utterly ruined and destroyed by this idea of this glass ceiling. But let's again give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's assume that they recognize that the vaulted ceilings should be restored, the stained glass should be respected, and that the acoustics of the building should be respected. So let's assume that. Let's just imagine that this is a mistake, that the glass roof would allow natural light to illuminate the space below, which is thoroughly ridiculous and would destroy the building anyway. But let's assume that the vaulted ceilings are restored and we still have a glass building on top. So we see different versions of here, and what seems to be the most common theme. There are actually some other ones which includes a rooftop pool. I'm not even going to show you that. I'm not going to offend your intelligence by showing you that design. But what about these designs with the glass on top, these various designs? What is the problem with this? Well, there is a huge issue with this. It's utter crap. So since the beginning, even if you go back a few centuries before the spire was added, this would be the building essentially at dawn and at dusk. Even during midday, the building itself would show itself, would present itself. Here's what would happen if you were to build either one of these glass designs. The building would be lost, completely lost and destroyed in the light. It would be blinding. You couldn't see it. This would be what people would look like looking at Notre Dame, whether it's dawn or dusk or night or midday. This is what Notre Dame would become. This issue is well known. It is not a secret. These glass buildings have a huge problem that they blind. They blind you to them. So the church itself is sacred space. So whether it was a mosque, a synagogue, a stupa, or a temple, or a church in general, this is why you should not ever build in glass, because it destroys it. It blinds you to the building. This is what Notre Dame would become, an invisible hazard. Now, this idea of a hazard, so this is in Las Vegas, you can't, like for instance here, they designed the building, it's actually dangerous to be at the pool. It is not just ugly, it is not just blinding, it is physically dangerous to do this. This is a walkie-talkie building, as they call in London, 20 Fenchurch Street. Again, it's blinding. Now, this is a concave, and same with this design in here. This actually forms a physical danger. Now, but even if it was a straight building or a convex where it don't have quite that magnification, it is still blinding. It destroys the essence of the building. You can't see it. As where these concave, literally it melts cars and it melts seat. It is a death ray in this particular case. Now, this might not be the example in Notre Dame, but this is what Notre Dame would become. Blinding. It will hide the building. Not only would it be hide the building, it would make it dangerous to look at. You couldn't stare at it. It would literally blind you to stare at the building. It is a hideous idea. They know that this happens. This is a common issue and has been known really for decades, since this, glass and steel monstrosities have taken over. Here we can see. Now, I've been kind. This is what, you would hardly see the silhouette. But if I were to put these glass and steel and stainless steel structures, this is what would turn Notre Dame into an invisible building. It would make it physically unhealthy to look at these places. Possibly even it could cause fires, melt plastic, actually melt flesh, possibly even if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. What actually happens is these buildings, and that's what I believe that they're doing, because as part of this modernist, postmodernist, brutalist philosophy, is to destroy tradition, to destroy the sacredness of buildings. And again, you can find, whether you look through the postmodernist philosophy, this is actually their plan. This is no secret. This is what's happening. And not only that, if, for instance, Norman Foster's design would come through, it would turn the building into a vanity project for his crappy design. Can you even architecture Mr. Foster? They understand that this happens. This has been an issue now for many, many years. This is no mistake. This is an intentional ideological plan to destroy the sacred, or it's a schoolboy mistake of architecture, but it can't be, because this again has been an issue for years and years. It's no secret that this is a problem. So what we have is that the proposals that they have for this glass structure on top of Notre Dame, it is a giant turd, and they know it is. There's no way to hide it and say it any other way. This is Notre Dame Cathedral. This is what it should look like. This is Notre Dame Cathedral. This is what it should look like. It should be there. It should be present. It's a cornerstone, the center of the city. It's a foundation stone of the city of Paris. Visually, spiritually, historically, and by heritage. Now, if I was to get any other heritage building and I was to try to put one of these crappy glass and steel structures on there, I would find myself in court very quickly, and I would be instructed by the court to remove this structure. So even if I bought an old cottage, historical heritage cottage here in Australia, and I tried to do this to that, I would find myself in court and with a huge fine so quickly it would make my head spin. Yet, I'm sure if I was to do the same in London or England, the heritage foundations or societies there in across the world, if I was in America and I was to get a colonial heritage building and I was to try to put a glass roof on it, or a massive ugly satellite dish, I would find myself with big legal problems very soon. It would be insisted that I would remove this. Yet how can they even propose for a structure like this to be put on top of a heritage listed building? The religious aspects of a side of it, just to the side, just the preservation of the city heritage, just the fact that these are actually physically dangerous buildings to construct like this, and it is well known. And that any major architectural firm who were proposing it, at least ones that are in the favourite, they know that this, how can they not know? They know that this is happening. This is part of an ideological plan to destroy the sacred and to turn everything into a giant turd, a meaningless giant turd. This is not Notre Dame, a blinding light that it's invisible to see. It's also in environmental danger because it would bird life, for instance, would be also under threat as well. That's another aspect of this hideous architecture, that it's physically dangerous to humans, it's physically dangerous to wildlife. And it's curious that those who tend to be activists who, always, let's protect and blah, 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 they're strangely silent on these aspects. Yet they're very vocal on their promotion of this hideous glass and steel design that we know is physically ugly. It is materially dangerous. It is physically dangerous to humans and to wildlife. It can't be allowed to happen. And the only way that this can go through is that they're suppressing these very serious lifestyle issues, heritage issues, wildlife, environmental issues. I can't explain it. And this is a vanity project to destroy sacred architecture and to turn it into a giant piece of self-indulgent crap. That's the only way, there is no other explanation. This, Mr. Foster, and to all your friends, this needs to be stopped on environmental issues, on social lifestyle issues, on material issues, in the fact that this could physically damage property. And again, this is not a secret. They know that this happens, and it's an issue across multiple cities across the world, including London and Las Vegas, where it will literally burn people. It will blind people. This most sacred of Parisian landmarks would be turned into a physical threat to your eyesight, a physical threat to wildlife, a material threat possibly to actual heritage buildings. Someone could maybe even die because their curtains get set on fire because these things are designed badly and ugly and giant turds. Bro, can you even architecture? I believe you can. I believe you know what you're doing. I believe these other plans know exactly what they're doing, and that it's part of an intentional plan. Or otherwise, they are such poor architects. They are so ignorant to the issues, not only of the sacred space of Notre Dame, but also the physical well-being of the wildlife of Paris and the people of Paris. This simply cannot be allowed to happen, and anyone who promotes it clearly has an agenda or is ignorant to the issues. And once they educate themselves on the issues, whether it's the sacredness of a building or the physical dangers, material dangers posed by this crappy design, surely they must repel it. Surely they must insist that this does not happen, not just for a subjective artistic architectural viewpoint, but for an actual public health and safety issue. And that's what it is. It's not just the beauty of the issue, it is literally a health issue. And that alone, it must be stopped. But also the heritage issues of this, it must be stopped. There is no good reason apart from a destructive, ideological reasons to destroy these. Protect the past, protect the heritage, protect your eyesight. insist that this does not go through.